what used to bring you joy versus what brings you joy now? I think you kind of alluded to that a little bit.
I'll be honest, man. That was a hard question to answer for a while. I mean, I battled really heavy with the people who've been following me for a while, kind of know, like I've talked very openly about just really heavy depression and suicidal ideation and all that. Like that had been something that I had warred with for quite some time and just could not figure out for the longest. And so joy was always like a fleeting thing or a thing that I couldn't, like it wasn't as easily accessible. Like it's not just up in the cabinet.
Yeah,
I'm looking for there goes the joy and
Right.
just grab it whenever you feel like it. It's like, where is you're like looking around for your keys.
Yeah.
I'm always losing my wallet of joy.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't, and I say that as someone who I'm super analytical and I want to figure things out. And so the interesting thing about depression for me is I would feel hopeless, but at the same time, I was analytical about why I felt hopeless and why I felt joyless. And I wanted to find out the root cause. I wanted to figure out everything. And I'm thankful that I figured that out before my son came. Joy, and he's the icing on the cake now, but joy is not this ephemeral thing that is like in the air, but it's a rhythm, it's a ritual that you can return to quite often if you're patient enough, if you're disciplined enough to have routines in your life. Just like the sun rises every morning, man, and you are able to return to joy quite often if you have the rituals for it. And by rituals, I don't want to be too abstract, but I mean finding the things that do all the little things that give you joy. I remember one time I had been going through seasonal depression for a while. I was like depressed for like weeks. And then one day I had the best day I'd ever had. And it's like a scientist, I was like, why did I have the best day? Because it's not like I went to like Disneyland or something or went I wasn't on tour or nothing like that. It was just a regular day. It was a Tuesday. And so I went back and journaled like all of the things that I did that day. Like I just observed, I was like, I woke up at this time, I had this for breakfast, and then I did this, and I like wrote it in chronological order, and then I went and did this, and I read a book, and I went for, and then, so I was like, okay, if I ever want to return to joy, a sustainable joy, not a thing that is like, well, my pastor used to say, there's a difference between joy and happiness. Happy is based on happenstance. But joy is something that you can go and get.
Yeah.
And so I was like, and joy doesn't have to be this big, large thing. It can be, joy is in the small, man. Reading books gives me joy. Eating oatmeal with blueberries give me joy. Like you can, once you slow down to appreciate like the mundane of life, you don't always need the novelty, because the novelty oftentimes is distractional. I need to go on vacation to have joy. Vacations are great, but if you feel like you need to go on vacation to find joy, then it's not there.
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, that's and then of course with my son on top of that, now it's just like, man, oh my gosh, I can go down a list of things about him. I find myself, when he's not around me, I like find myself like reenacting things that he does, and it makes me laugh. Like the way like right now, he runs, but like it's almost like he wants you to chase him, so he kind of does this thing where he looks over his shoulder to see if you're chasing him. And his back is he's kind of like leaning back when he runs. It's so funny. And he's obsessed with dinosaurs right now, and he has a pretty big vocabulary for his age, but it's still a lot of like mumbling, but it's like, I don't know, dinosaur? No, dinosaur. He always roars with his hands this way, not that way. It's like, wow. And that is like, there's no bigger thing than that for me right now.
I just love seeing that as a father, like as a dad, just seeing that from another dad. You just like we were talking pre-show, and we were talking about like being a father changes you. It makes you more cognizant of everything that's going on. It makes you think about every moment as a way to pour into that to your child. And then you become protective, but you become protective in a way that's, I got to be a warm embrace, but at the same time, I got to be a tough discipliner. Like, I got to do a lot, but it's worth it, right? It's all worth it. And so to see you take those moments, and your son is a few years younger than mine, right? But then I go back to, I play back those moments in my mind where I was like,
man, bro. It's one thing I learned, again, I go down rabbit holes. I watch video essays and documentaries and TED Talks. That's like my pastime. And I remember watching this TED Talk about fathers and the physiological changes they go through for present fathers that they go through in being fathers. It's not just women that go through a physiological change in the body, but men go through as well. And she was saying that that men's testosterone drops when they have children, when they're present fathers. It doesn't just happen if you get somebody pregnant and it don't show up magically. Right. But for present fathers, the testosterone drops so that their empathy may increase and that their aggression would come down, so that you can have that balance of, like you said, aggression, sternness, but also warmth and empathy. Yeah. And I felt that immediately, bro, when he was born. I cried at everything, and I don't cry. Like, I cried before he was born. I'd probably cry like once a year and a half. And it was really, I went through like a drought of just like not being able to cry. And even though life was just like beating me up in some ways, I just couldn't cry. I couldn't bring myself to cry. And when I did cry, it was like the floodgates. It was like a year and a half worth of water that had been welled up in me. But when he was born, bro, I can come across an Instagram video, and if it's got something to do with kids, I'm just like, I'm getting like a little teary-eyed. I watch a movie. I watched, what was it, Everything Everywhere All at Once? And I was watching, I was like, what y'all got me? Why y'all said this was going to be a good movie? I'm watching, this is so stupid. I got to the end of it, and the mother and daughter moment, I was like, oh no. I don't remember what it was about now. I remember crying at that movie. I was like, I don't cry at movies. What is happening? It just made me a softer human, but it also made me a sterner human, because you realize like you are raising this little black boy. You know how vicious this life is. You know how merciless that this world can be, and how much at the end of the day, in general, the world does not care about you. You got to find your people that do care about you. But in general, the world moves on without you, and you have to raise a boy that is going to be resilient. Yeah. And you find that balance of like not wanting to raise a boy that is just hard, but one that has a tough exterior, but with a soft and empathetic heart. And like you said, that it takes balance, and it takes your own sort of check of inventory in yourself. Yeah. You know, I think I was actually, when I found out I was having a kid, I actually didn't want to have a boy. For all the wrong reasons, actually. It was still for patriarchal, like misogynistic reasons in some kind of way, like that was still stored up in me, meaning that I felt like if I had a daughter, then I could just love her. You know what I'm saying? Just show up and cuddle and give her gifts and stuff, and just, man, we have play dates, and then I don't have to do anything about me. I just show up and just be a good present father. And it's like, obviously that's wrong, but like I had to like notice that. I was like, I don't know why. I just always saw myself as a girl dad. And it was like, it's because you realize that if you have a boy, it becomes more apparent to you, because you have this sort of spitting image of you, that if you have high hopes for the type of man you want him to be, there's a lot of changing in you that you have to do. Yeah. And you are keenly aware of your shortcomings and your faults, and that terrifies you. And so somehow you think that you can get away with not really dealing with that if you have a girl, which is wild. And so when I found out I was having a boy, I was like, whew, okay. Because you can't just teach by words. You have to teach by example, which means that whatever habits you want them to have, you have to have the habits. Yeah. And that takes more than pontificating and philosophizing and having really eloquent words about it. It takes like actually doing it. And
Yeah.
so I've just went through so much in the first couple of years, man. But it's been good. I'm thankful, so thankful.